So, what I want to do. Hmm, Okay, so I posted a link in the chat for this mural that I have, kind of talking about what I'm doing, what I'm building, what I'm working on. So feel free to check that out, and then all the links for me here on the right. But then you can kind of see exactly what we're going to work on here. Uh, but while I was traveling this past week, I really wanted to work on a gathering system. So I had put together a design for a gathering system that I wanted to work on instead of the inventory system that I had started working on the left. So, but I can show you the inventory system right now. It's fully replicated. I have go to our player state, a player inventory component, actor component that I created that gives you can set the maximum bag slots. So here's 5, and you can set my starting assets, which are all data assets. So I like using data assets as part of Unreal Engine. But here I can say I want to give the player a hearthstone. I want to give them one of them. I want to give them simple bread, water. In this case, I give them a small bag. So I wanted to test out giving bags. But again, all this is replicated. So as soon as I press play, as you can see here, I'm in net mode. I'm playing as a client. So the server is giving the player all the items that we want. And if I open my bag, you can see we have a backpack here that has the few items that we do want. Hearthstone, bread, water, and the small bag. I can open and close them. And I have some sound effects, not sure that's going through on this screen. And then I give myself another backpack. So the other thing I did here, just to further explain where I'm at, I created a test button, just the letter K on my keyboard to test some server functions that I created. So this one is adding a test item and then equipping a bag. So what I want to do here is really we want to equip a new bag into this middle slot. I wanted to see if it was working properly. So I hit K on my keyboard and see the bag was updated, and now we have a small bag, and I can open both the bags. We have everything in here that I want. Now, I did have drag and dropping working at a certain point, but as I was kind of redoing this and making sure the replication was working properly, it's been broken. But like I said, in this video, I really wanted to work on a gathering system. So gathering, meaning mining or herbs, like that's in World of Warcraft. Oh, this should work. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to work on. Feel free to ask any questions if you have. But yeah, so what I was thinking through, I was traveling this week for work, and I was thinking through what I wanted to do for a zone gathering manager. So I was thinking through what this actor would be like, and I think what I want to do is have in every quote-unquote zone, so like Northshire is part of Elwyn Forest, you'd have a zone gathering manager that's responsible for all the nodes in that all the gathering nodes in that zone. And so what this will, and it'll be data driven. All the nodes will be actors that the designer or myself could go and place in the world, and as soon as they on begin play, we're going to have them register with the zone manager that they're tagged to, and in that, once they register, they'll be deactivated on start, and then the zone manager will be responsible for let me bump up the bit rate on my stream here. Saying the quality could be better. It looks, yeah, it looks pretty. All right. 1 second. Go to settings. I don't think I can change this while live. See if this helps. All right. So yeah, so I want to create a actor that's a zone manager that will exist only on the server. I think those zone managers are going to be managed by the game mode or game state. And I think from there we will look at building out the individual nodes themselves. And I'm going to use a collection of like game tags and then some server functions to handle all these methods. So the first thing I want to do is actually build the zone manager. I'm going to do that in C++. So inside my C++ here, let me close out actually most of these. I don't need these right now. We'll create the zone manager actor again that will only exist on the server. So here, I think what we'll do, we'll put it in my systems. Create a new Unreal Engine class. We'll create an actor, and we're going to call this Zone Gathering Manager. I'm going to put this in a folder called Zone and then Gatherables. And let's see how this stream look good to me. Does the stream look bad? Investigate. I can bump up the bitrate. Bumped up the bitrate even more. Hopefully it's a little bit better. Okay, so now again we have our gathering component. If you take back, look what I wanted to do. We wanted to have a data asset that handles some of this information, like the total number of active nodes that we want. We want to determine the type of nodes to spawn. They should maintain awareness of all nodes regardless of node state. So we want to have some sort of list or some way to manage nodes that are activated and not deactivated and activated. We should have a collection of all the total possible active nodes. And again, they handle respawning. So we'll have to set up respawning rules and think through some of the design things. So here I was thinking, like, should a zone ever not have activated nodes? That'd be a question of, should a player be able to be in a zone and not ever see like a mining node? Or should there be a minimum of active nodes available? The other thought I was thinking of, you know, should we always have a rare node up? So a rare node would just, might be, I don't know, some specialized node. Should activated nodes not be near each other? So how do we handle making sure nodes don't spawn on top of each other? So as a designer, if I place, let me go into Mural actually, that might be. So as a designer, if I placed a bunch of nodes, let me make this a different color. So these emerald ones will be our nodes. Actually, let me delete this and we'll say node. If I place these all around, I don't want them to on top of each other, right? But so we should think about the distance of which these spawn from each other. And then this would be our node manager, which is the server component we're going to build now. This will need to have a collection of all nodes. Okay. The other thing I was thinking about, should nodes deactivate on their own after a certain amount of time? So like, does a active node turn on and then say, hey, after 10 minutes I should despawn, or is that up to the manager? Just some gaming questions, I guess, to figure out what is more fun. But overall, we need a way to create a node in a manager where then the node registers itself with the manager. The only thing on the client that the node's going to do is handle interactions, and it'll call to the server to register. So what we want to do, we don't need on tick. We can use begin play, and we'll keep our constructor. Inside zone and gatherables, I'm going to create a new Unreal Engine class. It's going to be of actor, and this will be our gathering node. I already created one. I have it. Okay. He's already thinking through this. Not much in here though. Jumping ahead. Okay, we'll pick up off this word. Okay, so we have a gathering node. I don't remember doing this. All right. Perfect. So in our gathering node, gatherable zone manager, we have a function to activate a node, to deactivate a node. We have on node depleted. Let's see. We have a registration of our node, and then we have a gathering node, which is just an actor. This is going to have, I believe these will be server functions. They'll need on rep. So basically we want a u public variable. So we're going to create a u property. And this will be replicated. No. Edit defaults, or edit anywhere. We'll make this blueprint read only. Honestly, we're going to say edit defaults. This is going to be the u static mesh of our actor. So this would be like the mining node model. Let me look at, well, I already started doing this. Zone data asset. And we can come in here and say, okay, so we actually didn't create any of these data assets, it looks like. So what we can do is make a new folder called data, and we'll go to data asset, and then we're gonna look for zone gathering asset, and we'll say data asset DA gathering zone test. So one thing I want is a zone tag. So inside our data assets, I want to have a F gameplay tag. And this is going to be our zone tag. We're not going to clamp this. So when we attach this, all of our zones will have a tag. So let's say it's L1 Forest. L1 Forest will have a zone tag. And then our gathering node, which is going to be have a gathering node asset over here, will also have a similar game tag. So what I want to do here, a public u property, edit defaults only. We'll say F gameplay tag. zone. And the thought process is here is what we want to do is when the node spawns in our game world, so probably in begin play. Probably in begin play, we want to look at how we need to do a search for all the available zone managers, and we want to get the one that has our gameplay tag. So here, we want to register zone manager. So we want to do something where we search for all available gatherable zone managers. I think we can do like gameplay statics, find actor. Let me look. I know there's a way to do that. I'm not totally sure. Let's see. Okay, we can do get all actors with interface. That might not be. And we can kind of communicate it through that. Or we do have a specific class. Since I haven't created that, so we'll go ahead and do a T array of AA actor. Found zone managers. We're going to do U gameplay statics. Get all actors of class, actors with tag. That's what we want, and we want to do get world. We probably need to put that inside a thing. What we'll do is in our gathering node header file, we'll have a zone manager tag, and we can pass that in here. Oh, what's the app name? Yeah. Can I not get the tag name here? Oh. I'm being silly. Okay. I'm in the data asset, sorry. So we want to go into our header file. We're going to have a zone manager tag. We could probably hard code this if we really wanted to, but we'll get the tag name, and what else does this need? Out actors. So we're going to say found zone managers. And we want to do this only on the server, so I think we want to say get has authority. If that's true, then we want to do this. So on the server, we're going to check to get all the actors. From there, we want to actually loop through all these actors. So we'll say for each through found managers. Now, we don't know these are actually managers yet, and so this is why I think a interface would be good. But just because we haven't created that yet, we can go ahead and just say we can attempt to cast the actor to his own manager. So we can say a zone manager. Zone manager is going to be equal to a cast, and we'll say a gatherable zone manager, and we'll cast to our found here. We can wrap this in an if statement, so we'll say if this is true. If this is valid, then we know we can check now to see if the zone manager tag has the same zone tag as the node. So if we go into our zone manager, we need a reference to the zone data asset. So we need some sort of like function that we could do in here that just says returns the zone tag. So what I would do is here we can say u function blueprint callable if we really want. We'll return an f gameplay tag, and we'll say get zone tag, and this will return hot. Honestly, we can just say return our zone data asset dot zone. This is unsafe because zone data asset could not exist. So you might want to look at cleaning this up a little bit and just sending a default zone tag. But we'll leave that for now. So now we can say if our zone manager exists, then we'll say if zone manager dot get zone tag, and if that zone tag is equal to, which I'm pretty sure we can say, matches tag, a function of this, and then just say for part of our gathering node, again, gathering node is going to have a gathering node asset. So let's go in here and create a very similar function. Let me grab it from here. We want to do a very similar thing here. Actually, I'm going to have to view function blueprint callable, sure, f gameplay tag, get zone tag response, and we'll say return, and we'll use our, doesn't have a data asset yet, so grab this, and we're going to look for u gathering node asset, include it, make it a pointer, and then we'll say gathering node asset. We know the gathering node asset has our zone tag. So we'll return that and we'll say zone. Very similar thing. So we're going to have our zone manager get a zone tag. We're going to check to see if it matches that. So what we can do here is get zone tag. Little confusing, but if this is true, this means that the zone manager has a matching tag to our node, which means that this node is going to register with the zone manager. So we want to say zone manager dot register node, and I think we want to pass in our this. So we're going to register ourselves. If we go into, let me move these out. So if we go into our function here, we can see if the node is valid and all nodes contain this, does not contain this node already, then it can register. So what we want to do is add some logging here. So we're going to say u e underscore log fmt log temp for now. We'll probably add our own logging category, but we'll say gathering node successfully, we'll say registered with zone manager in zone the. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and say get zone data. We'll get our zone tag dot toString. Like that. All right, so again, this is really unsafe, this get zone tag, so we might need to change that up here in a minute, but for right now, I think it'll be all right. So we're going to go into Unreal Engine, and we have our other data asset. What we need to do is create another data asset that is going to be our node, the gathering node asset, and be a gathering node s. All right, it doesn't have anything yet because we didn't do it. So let's recompile and we'll test this out. Good. You know, honestly, we can probably delete that, but I don't think I like gatherable zone manager. I don't know. Zone gatherable manager, zone manager. What we could do, honestly, is probably make this into an actor component. So we could have a zone manager actor and then make an actor component that's gatherable. And probably do it that way. That might make a little bit more sense. More iterations. So, okay, so here are our zone tags. We now have a zone tag. And what we want to do is put... No, this isn't... Thinking this isn't great. I'm thinking we don't want to do this because that means we're going to have to make a copper data asset for every zone that we want to have copper in. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So it should be instanced based on the... Not the data asset, but the actual actor itself. So let's go into our gathering node actor. And let me come back here. Let's grab this. We'll paste that in there. We're just gonna return our zone tag. Let me make sure I didn't break anything here. So, yeah, then no one needs to look at that. Okay. That's fair. All right. Let's restart. Now we can go ahead and see. We have our zone tag. We don't want to store it in the data asset because the data asset is just going to tell us, hey, this is copper ore, and this is how copper ore should always interact. So basically, like if we come back into our gatherable data asset, why this reloads, we can do a couple things in here. We know we want to f text, and this is name. We probably want some sort of static mesh. Static mesh. Be our mesh. We probably want to know how many times, like it's loot table. So let's say loot table. What can it drop? And then how much of whatever can it drop? So what can it drop and how much of each drop? We probably want to know its lifetime. How many uses? Does it just default to 1? Do we have 3? You know, it's up to that. Do we have a range? So we probably can have a min and max usage, and we can actually add that in here really fast. Let me grab this. We'll say int 32 min use counts. We'll set that equal to 1. I'm gonna this. We're gonna come in here and we'll say meta clamp min at, I want to say at 1. Similar to what we did over. We could do a max. Not that we really need to, but just to add some restraint. Probably don't need to do this, but that's fine. Max use count has to be a maximum of, yeah. Right. So inside Unreal Engine, we loaded it up. We should go back into our gathering and data. We have a gathering node data asset with a zone tag. We don't have any of these zone tags, so we need to create them. So if I open it up, and really we wanted this to be in our actor, let me create a new blueprint actor. And we're looking for a gathering node. Say BP test gathering node. All right. So here we see we have our zone tag. This is really the one that we want to edit, and our manager tag. So again, both of these don't exist. So what we can do first is manage our gameplay tags. I want to click add, and we want to say zones dot. I would like it to be like continent. So like if we have Kilmandor as a continent, and then underneath continent we have the zone itself. I don't know if I actually need that hierarchy yet. But I kind of wanted to prep for it. So we'll come in here and we'll say continent dot. I don't know if I have a name for it. Maybe we'll just say continent 1. And then it's Eastern Kingdom. The Eastern Kingdoms dot Elwyn Forest. We'll do it that way. We'll put it in our default, and then we'll add a new tag. So now we say zones, Eastern Kingdoms, Elwyn Forest. So Elwyn Forest is itself. Now within Elwyn Forest, we could add a Northshire if we really wanted to, but I'm going to keep it as that. So now that we have our zones, we need a zone manager tag. Really could just be an F name. We might just change. Sorry, we're designing all this off the cuff here. Yeah, I'm thinking what I want to do is that we'll just make it an F name and not a real. So the... What are we going to need? So where'd it go? This function, the get all actors with tag, this doesn't actually use the gameplay tags. This just uses F names of tags. So the F name could be anything. But what I'm thinking we can do is just keep the same thing. So the zone manager. So I'm going to create a zone manager. Data asset for the zone that's going to have our zone tag of Elwyn Forest. And I feel like that's all our zone manager tag will be. So zone manager tag, it's just going to look for the same zone that I'm, actually, it's a duplicate. All right. So back in here, we get all actors. We're just going to get the thinking. But this is the tag it's looking. Yeah. So we're just looking for a zone manager tag. That's all we're doing. Really don't like that though. So in reality, it's just like F name. I'm just thinking through how I want to do this. I think it makes more sense that we again, that function is going to look for this array and get tags out of this array for the zone. So it's just going to check to see if this zone manager tag is here. If it is, then it's going to grab the actor. It's not going to look at anything else. So but I think what I might do is we'll just in our here we can say f name, I think from, isn't that from string? We'll just do that. So we'll search for zone manager. Let's put a found a total of let's refresh this, and what we did was I was using gameplay tags for that, completely forgetting that this function actually doesn't use gameplay tags. It uses f names. This is like a function that was built before the gameplay tags. So we can just type in the tag name, which will be zone manager, which will be attached to every zone manager actor that we create, which we'll probably just force in the constructor to make sure that happens. Okay. So let me go back to our zone manager. If I type in tags here, we should see zone manager in our tags. Perfect. This doesn't have any physical thing in the world, but we can go ahead and put it in there, right? There's no physical presence. Then we have a gathering node, which should have a data asset attached to it, which we'll put test. And we're telling it to look for, it's going to be part of Elwyn Forest. So this means every time should be able to edit this instance. So let me do something. We come into our blueprint editor. We'll give this a mesh cube, and we'll drag this into our world. We know this is our mining node. If I look at it here, I should be able to just change the setting of what zone it will. Once we say edit anything. I think I'm playing these out more. Okay. That's fine. So now we have it, it's set in Elwyn Forest, and I think we should be able to see that it registered crashed. Oh, it's because I didn't set up the node zone manager node. Not doing well today. Oh, okay, let's see. Let's see. Zone manager, zone data asset. In my head that was the problem, but honestly I don't actually know. There we go. Alright. I was looking for the data asset and I didn't assign it. That's why I said it was unsafe earlier. If we go ahead and look, why we should set up some categories. This is all the player inventory stuff. And adding gold currency. We already have that. So what I think is happening, a couple things we need to do. I think a few things that are happening right now I'm not thinking correctly today. The first thing, we want to add some logging, so it's a little bit easier for us to filter our log based on gatherables. So I'm just going to open what I did for our player inventory component and show you how we can make a custom log. So you can do this declare log category, and we're going to add that to our gatherable zone manager, and we'll call this gatherables. Call it gatherables, and then in the CPP file you need to do a similar thing where you define the log category. So we'll go inside our zone manager CPP here, and we will just copy this gatherable log gatherables. So now inside our any statement that we do, we can call our log gatherables category so we can categorize them better. All right. So here we can do that, and we can do the same thing in the gathering node. The thing here I'm curious about is, well, I think what's happening is as soon as we begin play, if we have authority, it's going to go ahead and do this. I don't think this object has authority though. Oh no, this object does have authority, but I don't think this is running, or it's not going to find anything because they're spawning at a similar time. So it's almost like we need all the managers to spawn and then these nodes to spawn first, which I had not thought through of, which is unfortunate. I'm gonna have to think through this more. Seemingly something super simple in my head, and it's not. Oh man. Huh. We'll redo this. I think I need to look into timing and having these things register later, or I need to ensure that the zone managers are activated first, which I think I need to manage through the game state, which is gonna be a little so what I can do now is we can filter, and we're going to filter for our gatherable and see if it actually spit anything out. It did. So searching for zone managers, found a total of 1 zone managers. Gathering node registered with zone manager in Eastern Kingdom's Elwyn Forest. Okay, perfect. So it's actually working properly. So we created a server only zone manager. It now has reference to our one node that we created. So if I duplicate this, and it doesn't really matter where I put it, we'll save and press play. We should see that now it happened twice. Yeah. So each of the nodes is doing the same thing. Now my only problem or concern, or maybe not even a problem, my concern is, and we shouldn't see the zone manager here because we're on the client, which is good. Let me go to net mode. We'll play as a listen server, so we can actually see what the zone manager looks like in here. Okay, so we know this is working properly. We are calling to our zone manager to register. If we go into our gatherable zone manager and we click register, we know we're adding it to all nodes. If I come and check out my all nodes thing here, we know that it's private, so we can't actually see it, but I think we can say visible anywhere, and that might be helpful to see and prove to ourselves that like we're actually keeping a list of these gatherable nodes. I'll go ahead and do that. There's another way too. You can set this in public and use a meta macro that says make it private only. But this, be able to see it, it'll be read only. Won't be able to edit it, which is totally fine. But I'd like to see that we're actually adding those nodes to all nodes. At that point, then, so if we come back to the thought process here, if we have a timing thing where we need to have our load manager, our zone manager needs to load. We then need to load all nodes. Nodes register with zone manager. Then we activate nodes based rules. So I could remove this registration process and say that and always attach a node to a manager, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted it to be super simple for me to be able to drag in a whole bunch of nodes and just say this belongs to the L1 Forest zone manager, and then it just starts up. But what I need to do is enforce this timing so that we know if we have 50 nodes that have to register first, that we're not activating nodes based on these rules. And I don't know if the right thing to do, I don't think the right thing to do is just set a delay that seems kind of goofy on startup. Like it should be, somehow the zone manager needs to know that all of the nodes have fully registered and therefore they're ready to be activated. But what I think we can do is just, every time a node is registered, we can run an activation function that then just says, checks the current state of activated nodes, and if it falls within the rule set, then it can. That sounds like the better. So basically, every time, let's test this out. So we'll go to our gathering zone manager, all nodes. I'm thinking we don't see this because it wasn't replicated. Yeah, which is fine. We'll just do another statement here that says total active total nodes, and we'll just spit out the number. So we'll say all nodes dot num, and I think honestly we want to do add unique. We don't want to add the same node multiple times. So after we do add, we want to initiate. I'm trying to think. I want to do this. Yeah, I think we want to call activate new node. So every time a node registers, we're going to call activate new node. Activate new node is going to get current state, or basically has knowledge of current state of zone based on rules. Based on rules, we're going to load, or based on rules and state either deactivate or well, I guess they start deactivate, so we're say activate or not. My one thought here, though, this is where I think the distance rules come into play, is if sequentially our nodes load. So if this is loaded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's going to try to activate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 potentially. Order's not guaranteed, but that's a thought. So if these are all trying to activate in a similar path, then the nodes on startup, server startup, will kind of activate in a similar manner. You don't totally want. So it's almost like the manager needs some randomization built in, maybe, that says, hey, we're not going to activate every time. I don't know if I like that. I think for now we'll do it, and we'll see how sequential it is. I'm not sure zone if it's always going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 again, because its order's not guaranteed. We could also put a random delay, a super short random delay on all the nodes, so they all don't run their query at the same time. I'm thinking, how bad is it that if we have 100 nodes, just one time on startup, it's not that big. Okay. So we're adding it to an array. We're going to say activate new node. To me, this needs to know that it needs to have that specific node. We could just get the first one, though, to kind of test this out. We could just grab all nodes of 0. So this would be our first one. We could get the last index. Honestly, that'd probably be the best way to do that. We can just do all nodes.last. This is going to give us the last element. So we could say a gathering node star, and we'll say node to activate. Grab it. We can check to see if node to activate is valid. If it is valid, then we can attempt to activate it. So here we say activated nodes dot add unique node to activate. We want to say node to activate dot activate node. I think I want to do this logically first. This is going to go to our gathering node. We're going to call activate node, which once this activates, we need to, which means it just kind of turns it on. I want it to set its visibility. Over here. Want to trigger, basically turn on the turn on mesh on the client, and turn on collision. Right, there's a few things we want to do. We want to turn on the mesh. We want to turn on the collision. We want this to be we want to make it interactable. So in order to do that, we need to send a client RPC, and we need to send a multi, I think it's a multi RPC to all the clients, because every client needs to know that this is what's gonna happen. Yeah. So in our gathering node, I think what we want to do void client activate nodes view function multi. I want to go and look at. I'm still learning a little bit about these, all the different things. I'm still trying to nail down all the replication stuff. It's pretty complex. I didn't think it'd be as difficult as it was, or as it has been, but it's been pretty challenging. Um, and I thought I had. I have some multicast functions. I thought I programmed. Yeah, we have like a multicast show effect. Which we just said is multicast. Okay. But we need it when it activates and turns on its mesh. It needs to do that for everything. So let's go into our gathering node. We want to say visibility. Maybe I just want to deactivate its visibility of the mesh. We won't render. Okay. And I like to do like some sort of like a dissolve or like a fade in, fade out type vibe when we activate and deactivate. I think that would be good. So we need to create again. We need to create a multicast RPC. So we'll go into our gathering node. I think this is all we need to do. And then client, that's for the client specific one. We want to call this multi-ask. Activate node. What doesn't it like? Oh, it has to be one or the other. We'll make it reliable. I don't know if we really need it reliable, but that's what. All right. So I hit Alt Enter and it created the multicast activated node implementation. So to me, what this means we need to do is we need to get access to a static mesh, and we want to say set visibility. I think rendering maybe one or two render. Let's see, set render type. What does this take? This is going to take a in render data. Let's see. Let's Google this. How do we set visibility? I don't. Okay. We're gonna do UE log FMT. We're gonna say log gatherables, and we're gonna say log and clients fake. This is gonna go on each of the clients because the server is casting to all the clients to render the node. Now there's a whole bunch of things that can happen in here, I believe, to like make sure we're only rendering the nodes based on distance. Be very okay. I did this wrong. We'll do a use static mesh component. And then inside where here we can say set visibility, which makes a lot of sense. So activate node, the server is going to call the zone manager on the server is going to call activate node on the server for the gathering node. And then it's going to say server is going to activate the node. The server is going to do a bunch of things. Maybe set some state, right? It's going to determine that. And then we want to replicate all that down to the client. And the way we do that is through a multicast function. So I'm going to hit Control S to save. We'll rebuild the project. I also think you can implement the multicast functions inside blueprints. I think they're overrideable. If not, I could probably make it virtual and then we can override it in blueprints. The thought is, though, is that everything, all state should be determined here. Meaning, if it is like, it is interactable, we want to set to true, current use count equals 0, right? Because it hasn't been used yet. If it's new, all this stuff. And then these variables will have to be replicated back to the client. And the way we can do that is over here. So we can say using property replicated. I wonder. Edit anywhere blueprint read only. Here we'll say int32 current use count. Here we'll set it equal to 0. And what we need to do is get lifetime props. We don't actually have that function yet. So we'll override that function, Alt Enter to load it up. And here we'll say do rep lifetime. And we want to pass in a gathering node, and we want to say current use. So this will replicate the current use count part. What I'm curious about is if I activate this on this, if this like lives on the server or not, it also becomes a replicated thing. I'm not sure. Because like right now, I think none of this information is on the server. Or is only on the server. I don't think it's replicated to the, but it is. Okay, let's test it out. So, see what happens. So I don't think it's gonna work because again, we're not replicating the server activate node. Oh, well, it would help if I actually called our multicast function. So that would be a big one. All right, let's control S, save, rebuild, try it again, and then let's see what this looks like, and we'll probably call it a day for today, and pick up next week. Need to think through this design a little bit and think through how I want everything to communicate in order, like the sequence of communication. I think that's important. So probably something I'll think about and design and update in the Notion document I created. All right. Why did we crash? It didn't have a zone component to it. I think what I need to do is you go in here. We need to set the default. Set default, or is that create default sub object? We want to create a U static mesh component, and we want to call it static. So we want to call it our mesh. Go. So this is going to create our static mesh component so we can actually access it. So I tried accessing the static mesh component, it didn't exist, and it crashed. So again, this is a good thing to make this a lot more safe. Instead of just doing this, we should actually check to see if that exists. Okay. So let's go into our node. I'm going to delete the cube. We already have a static mesh component, just fine. And we can come in here and we can add it. So I can make it a cone. And you can see the cone over there. I'm going to say visibility, and we're going to turn it off. So it's gone. Check if look up here, right above our head inside the client there. If I click visible, you can see it coming in and out. So we're going to turn them off, file and save. Now it should be able to safely access that file, save, and press play. And we'll see. I don't think so because I don't think they're replicated to the. If we so I'm on the static component and I say visible, we can see that it wasn't triggered, and I think that's because the component is not replicated. So pretty easy fix. We'll just say replicated here. And which really means we don't need this multicast function. Now that I'm thinking of this, because it's replicated this, we need to go to replicate it in our props mesh component, recompile, save, and we'll test it out again. Lots of testing. I feel like once I get down to the replication stuff, I feel more confident about it after building the inventory system, but it's still pretty complex. So I feel like once I have that nailed down, though, I'll be able to kind of iterate on some of the stuff faster. So let's see. All right. I'll need to think about this one. So gathering node, component. Let's try the multicast function. When I said we don't need, so we do need it. I didn't think we needed it, but that's fine. Also don't understand. Yeah, I'm fundamentally not thinking about the gathering node itself. The visual doesn't need to be on the server, but it needs to save it can. So I wonder if yeah. So we did try to activate the node. It's obviously not here, but our RPC is being called, which is good. We click on this, we know it's still not visible. Is that because the subcomponent is not I don't know why I just exit out of it. Let's restart it. I have one more thought and then maybe I'll call it a day from here. Pick it back up. Just stuck with the inventory system. I know that one pretty well. That one's more interesting too. But all right. My thought was, do I need to like set this replicated? There we go. That's what I was thinking. I don't know if it default replicates. And should have did that. All right. And why would it need to be on the server? Really what I'm thinking about. It's like, does that mesh actually need to be on the server? We can play as a listen server. We know that they're activated. They're not working on just a client, which is the biggest concern. So we know it's being called. We know our multicast RPC is being called for the node to activate. We know activate it, we can see it. We know it's replicated. Maybe we need to do that. All right. Well, what I think we're gonna do, I'll leave it here for now. I gotta do a little bit of research on replication of static mesh components because I think I'm doing this incorrectly. I think I want to trigger. I think the right thing to do is to have a Boolean value that we say like is interactable, and once that's updated. So let's test this out. So I want to do this bool is activated. So it's a false. Is activated. We'll set that to be inside our server function. We'll set that equals true. We can do a on replicated using, and we'll say on rep node activated. And we'll get rid of this. And we'll dump that. And here, this is again the client, still doing the client thing here, and set our visibility to true. So the server is just going to set the state, which I think is better, and then the client has an on replicated function. So as soon as these two values replicate back, then we know that we can actually set the visual component. Again, to me, that's the way it should work, but I think I'm missing a key thing. If anyone knows, please let me know what I'm doing wrong, but we'll test it out. So rebuild. I'm really thinking I have to do that, but that seems good. I need to set is replicated to true. All right. Let's see what happens. We know. These are not replicating properly. No. So I need to think about that. I need to look into that. Yeah, so server activate node, the value is changing, but it's not actually need to. It should be called on the server though, so I'm not totally certain. And it's not doing it on the. Oh, we know we have server activate node, so that was being called. Um, but the on rep wasn't being did, which is interesting. Uh, I am concerned that it's not actually. Something I haven't really played with is that when I place objects in the world when I'm building it, I think they are automatically on the server, but sometimes the server has to spawn it to have authority. But I feel like I don't know. Not Yeah. So none of the values or anything are being. We could do. We know the node exists, and we know that it current. All right. I need to do a little bit of research and then come back to this and think through how we want to sequence all the events. I'm probably going to do that in the next stream. Thank you all for joining.